You've caught me just moments after waking up, taking my morning pee-pee. Haven't had any smoke yet. It's cold. Let me show you something. That right there, that's a light dusting of snow. We got a light dusting of snow last night. Now that I'm out of my sleeping bag, I have let all of the extra insulation that was keeping my body warm off my body, and now I'm just slowly losing to the oppressive cold. In Lurian Kabbalah, Mem is both the letter M, because in Hebrew, for whatever reason, the letters also have names. I guess A and B and C and D are the names of the letters. M doesn't make an M sound. M makes a M sound, and Mem doesn't make a Mem sound without an I and another M. So whatever. Anyway, M is both the name of the letter M in Hebrew and Lurian Kabbalah. It's also one of the secret names of the highest form of God. But it's also water. Mem is also a water word, a water sign, because if you understand that Hebrew is a fucking old language, fucking old languages used to have their languages pull double duty. Actually, they had their languages pull more than double duty, because Hebrew doesn't have numbers, it doesn't have numerals either. It uses the letters for its numerals. So, because Kabbalah is not Kabbalah, because, ooh, this got wet. Ooh, this absorbed some of my sweat. And it's wet. It did not get dry. Okay, so anyway, since Hebrew is a fucking old language, old language, and it wasn't a language like, let's just say, Phoenician, also a Syrian, a Semitic language. Because it wasn't like those languages, and what I mean by that, I mean it wasn't spoken, it was written, it was a literary language, and it was intentionally kept as unchanging as possible because it was a literary specialist language. It was a literary and specialist language for the Bible writers, for priests, so that not only did the message to the audience, as far as the Jewish audience, not only did it not change, but if the Hebrew didn't change, then the message to the students, right? The message to the students who are going to become experts, who are then going to teach it to the general audience, and they're going to embody the life, and they're going to live it, and they're going to show people. They're not only going to show people how to live by living properly, they're also going to reinforce how people should live by telling them, because they know. Not unlike what I'm doing, frankly. The way you do that, and the way that in the ancient world, the thinking that went, the way that you make sure that doesn't change, is that the language doesn't change. People they can't go around and they can't fiddle with the good life, and they can't fiddle with what God wants from us, and they can't change it, because you got to understand that Hebrew wasn't at the beginning of the time. Hebrew puts itself at the beginning of time, so the people they were talking to wouldn't think about what came before. Hebrew, what came before the practices that these men were putting into place. Why did they not want them thinking about what came before? Well, what came before was evil. What came immediately before was women doing heinous acts of terrible civilizational scale evil. So, yeah, you want your civilization to forget certain things, and its traumas are one of them. See, the Jewish religion didn't begin as trauma baiting their children. It didn't begin as traumatizing their children into being good Jews, because if they didn't traumatize their children into being good Jews, they would take the easy route, or maybe actually the proven effective route, and be anything but Jewish in wherever they are in diaspora, because Jews are not the only people in diaspora, but Jews are a people who have been concerned with diaspora for thousands of years. There are people who have been and remained concerned with remaining the same people in diaspora, and that means in dispersion. That means not in a central location, and not able to return to a central location to identify with that central location. Because you have to remember that before Judaism, before all this stuff that I'm telling you about was invented, before Judaism was invented, religion happened at a central location. So Jews became very concerned with, once diaspora was a thing, they became very concerned with maintaining Judaism and Jewishness outside of diaspora. Whew. They needed it. Why did they need it? Because you lose your cultural identity in diaspora. They'll forget who they were. They'll forget who they are. They'll forget who they want to be, and they'll forget what makes them different from the people around them. Because they are different from the people around them. You are different. Your ancestry is probably different from the people around you. Because the United States isn't the first nation to be built on immigrants. It's not the first empire to be built on hugely diverse people groups. The Persian and etc. empires that absorbed, and that the early Jewish authors like Ezekiel and Isaiah and Josiah and Jeremiah, the things they were railing against were the same exact things that have been happening in the United States for the last 100 years. Because this is what happens when one people group rules an entire subcontinent. Subcontinents are massive land masses, folks. When one people owns a massive landmass, somebody's giving up their cultural heritage. And that's where iniquities come from. When you're just family, when you're just families, everybody knows everybody. Everybody knows everybody's grandparents. Everybody knows everybody's great-grandparents, and they all at some point share an ancestor myth. Think Goku and Vegeta, right? When everybody knows the same things, everybody largely agrees on everything that you need in order to get day to day, right? Think about it. Who do you know in the United States who largely disagrees with everything you believe in? People in some faraway part of the country. You have to be, this is very real. If you don't live on the coasts as a conservative, everybody thinks like you. If you don't live on the internal part of the nation as a liberal, everyone thinks like you. You have to go somewhere where people don't think like you in order to be in diaspora in the United States. You have to be away from your family. This is why people tell me all the time, oh, you'll find your tribe, you'll find your tribe, you'll find your tribe, like we're wanderers in the United States wasteland. That's insane. You're born to a tribe, people. You don't find your tribe. You don't find your people. That's not how friendship works. That's just not how friendship works. Like, do you not know the data, or do you just repeat things that you hear? Because I'm telling you right now, just placating things like this that you hear that aren't untrue are the opposite of spreading good news. You are doing the work of evil by spreading ungood placation like this. It's not, or by spreading well, ungood means unsound, unuseful, untrue. I have a new pair of socks in this sleeping bag somewhere. And I was trying to put the phone, you, in a more comfortable place for me so I could look for them. Please don't be them. This can't be them. I don't know what the fuck I've done. Oh, they should. I was gonna say they should be directly under me, and you know where they were? Directly under me. That's good. That means they're toasty warm. And my butt gets warm, guys. I don't remember what I was talking about. I don't even remember. Now that I've got these, now that I'm exposing my feet to the cold, I don't remember what I was even talking about conceptually. So I'm gonna clean my feet, and you're gonna get to watch that. It's actually not gross. They're not visibly dirty. It's not like there's a bunch of gunk. I just don't like the feeling of things touching my toes. I have really sensitive feet. Ticklish feet. I do need to do that more often. Take the socks off and wipe my feet because they're starting to get grody. It's okay. I shouldn't do this with my gloves on either. I shouldn't touch my feet with my gloves because then my gloves ultimately touch my face. And so any bacteria that's on my feet that was on my gloves is now on my face, and then anything I touch my face with is going to move those bacteria around to wherever I've touched my face, and then if I touch my face with my naked hands later in the day, then I've got those bacteria from my feet on my hands, and then if I put my hands in my mouth, I have foot and mouth disease. That's an extremely low probability exchange rate. You are extremely unlikely to get foot and mouth disease by putting on a new pair of socks with gloves on. Impossible. I'm just saying that's a pretty unlikely exchange of bacteria. If you consider that we don't all have foot and mouth disease all the time, if you consider that we all touch our faces a lot, we all touch our faces a lot. Even those of us who have trained ourselves because of public health and paranoia not to touch our faces in public at all. We all do it. We all touch our faces. We don't much touch our feet, but we don't constantly have diseases. We're just not constantly diseased. We're not constantly sick. Most of us. Shit, I live out in the wilderness and I'm not constantly sick. I have the sniffles that I have, post-nasal drip. My nose drips because it's cold. And I have had a few dust-ups with respiratory, not really even respiratory, with high throat stuff, but I am prone to sore throats in large part because of the smoking, in large part because of the singing, but also I've just always gotten sore throats. I used to get sore throats. I used to get strep every single year, sometimes twice a year. And my ears don't drain proper. I'm looking for my other pack of smokes. I'm gonna be highly annoyed with myself if I've lost my other pack of smokes, he says, already having found it. Alright, so now I've got my smokes, I've got my jacket, I got my hats on, I got my scarves on, I got my gloves on, I got my new socks on. New socks are the best. When you've worn a pair of socks for 6 weeks straight, you will understand. Socks. In the summer, socks are easier, actually. In the summer and the fall, I actually haven't lived out here in the summer. I lived out here for the fall. It's easier it's easier in the fall because I can go around barefoot. If you've seen my pictures from the tent, you know that I've got runt. They're runt now, but they weren't runt. I have these sandals that are runt now, but they weren't runt. And they're like walking around barefoot. So in the summer and the fall, I actually ended up the fall, the first several weeks before I got real cold, before it got real cold. I tried to wear my sandals as much as possible. The waistband of these pants, A, I've been wearing it for 6 weeks, and B, it's just a little tight enough that it cuts into my skin first thing in the morning and it makes me itchy, so you get to see me rub my waistband without actually getting to see me rub my waistband. You also get to see these scarves cutting into my neck and making it difficult for me to talk and to breathe. Whew, that's nice. Your skin does interesting things when you can't exfoliate. Interesting meaning things that I didn't anticipate. I've seen a couple of people duck in, leave, so this is real. It is something I'm actually doing. I'm not wearing my headphones, so I actually don't know where they are. That's not good. I don't even know where my lighter is. Because it's in here. Ha ha! I just pulled a Nirvana on you. And what I mean by that is I just pulled 90s shoegaze on your ass. I went quiet, loud, quiet. I'm a fucking nerd. I hope you guys, like, realize that. Okay, so the actual reason I opened this motherfucker, not the cigarettes, the actual reason I started this live stream is because I was getting anxious. I was making myself anxious about money. So I do still need some help. I do still need, oh man, even with these, I can never get the first cigarette out. Even with the new cigarettes, even with cigarettes purchased, I'm going to need to purchase cigarettes in as few as 4 days. I'm down to like my last couple of hits of weed. I decided to wake and bake today, A, because I was talking, and B, because that's what I wanted to talk about. I wanted to self-examine my my consumption habits. I do it in shorts every once in a while. I talk about what I've been smoking, how much I've been smoking, how much I've been eating. I decided last night, I told you before, you don't have to remember all of the details. You don't have to remember all of my finances, but I told you I had a $20 coupon at Panera, and I also told you that I didn't eat yesterday. That damn woman. She upset me. I was still upset about her doing all that stuff. I told the stories in shorts. You can find them on my channel. I love you. There's nobody live with me right now. Well, there wasn't. There's not. A couple of people have ducked in and ducked back out, but I'm not trying to be entertaining today. I'm getting ready to go get breakfast at Christ's table. That's what I do every morning. That's what I do every weekday morning. They're open on Saturday and Sundays. They're open on Saturday and they're open some Sundays for lunch. But that's a 2-hour walk for me. So I don't make it. I had been planning on saving that $20 coupon for tomorrow, but I didn't eat yesterday at Christ's table. I went there and I ate a few bites, but that woman was talking my fucking ear off and I couldn't understand her. Not being able to understand her was making me anxious. Then she's pointing fingers at me and talking to everybody in the dining room about how some bad thing had happened to me yet, and we hadn't even investigated whether the bad thing had happened. So she's just going around attacking this guy, talking shit about this guy, really, and then making me a victim. And I just got so upset, and so mad, so upset. I got so upset. I shook it. But then as I was laying there, I was thinking about it. It's just like, it wasn't even a big deal. The problem, frankly, was that I wasn't stoned. Whatever. So I didn't eat. So I just decided to spend my $20 yesterday. I'm a little guilty about it. Actually, I'm confessing. I should have held it. I told the girl that was working there that I was going to hold it. She was, whatever. She was excited I had $20. She's also the only one that's talked to me about my homelessness, so she's kind of the only one who knows in that way. Sorry about putting my fingers up here. I need to know what time it is. I'm gonna miss. Fuck. It's the bus. It's also later than I thought. It's 10:40. I thought it was 9:40. Whoopsie. I don't care as much as I used to. I used to try to get out of here at 8 o'clock to let the cops know I was alive, because the cops were always sitting up there at 8. So I gave them a high the last time that happened. I came out at 8, and so I don't come out at 8 anymore. I don't know if you know this, but it's fucking cold that early. It gets cold early in the mornings, and it stays that way. So I'm ready. I really need to leave the tent. I was supposed to be talking about something. So people keep joining me right at transition points, and that's a bummer for them. But they can also, it'll be in their history. They can come back if they're really interested. Today I just want to say thank you. Really, I just want to say thank you to the goddess for not ripping my tent to shreds at night, for the wind being brutal. The wind has been absolutely brutal, raging. It was just screaming through the trees the night before last, and my tent is fine. So I want to say for everyone that I'm thankful to the goddess for that. I'm thankful to the God for money, for the gifts that he has provided me. I'm thankful to my audience for being my audience, and I'm thankful to the people who have donated for their reasons for donating, and then backing out of my life and saying rude and hurtful things to me. I'm also thankful for that. I'm not unthankful for it. I'm thankful for everything that comes with it. I'm thankful for, like I said, I'm thankful for the donations and then the hate that comes from them. I understand now how that works. the way it works is that buyers on the internet aren't also your loyal customers. So I have some very interesting work to do. I have to build 3 or 4 different customer bases. This is very different from working retail. So for me, you know how when you take an interview and they ask you, well, why do you want this job? I talked about this the other day. I worked a lot of, I'm gonna put you in my pocket and stand up, but I worked a lot of entry-level jobs in 2020. And so they ask you, well, why do you want this job? Right? That's what they always ask you, no matter what your skill level is. Why do you want this job? And I always say the same thing because it's always the truth. I'm always doing something that's different than what I've done before. I'm not working. Even if I'm working in the same industry, I'm working in a different aspect of the industry. And I always say the same thing because I want to do something new. I want to do something that I want to do something that forces me to learn a new skill set, do something that I'm not good at. So I don't know if you can still hear me, so I should probably just wait a second. But people tell me all the time, like, well, if you're bored, well, they don't tell me all the time. I'm still thinking about that guy telling me, and if I'm bored, go to work. He actually didn't say go to work. He said just go work. So not even particularly literate. And so I'm thinking about how this is going to work for me. That was going to work for me. Making that video and saying, well, I was bored, so I went to sleep, and then I woke up and I did something work related. I have about $40, and I've decided that that's what I was talking about. I was thinking about her. I couldn't shake her, not because I was doing the obsessive thinking about a failure moment because I was guilty that I let myself get angry. I couldn't shake her because she was proof to me that the weed is more than just whatever. It's more than just recreational. It's more than just about booing my spirits. Booing. It's more than just about keeping my spirits up. There is a medicine to it, the smoking. So I got about $40, and I gotta figure out how, without counting on donations and the immediate to get more. I have enough, but the device that I like is outside my price range right now. So that's what I was thinking about. I was thinking about, is it better, having seen myself struggle with my emotions under a situation that I couldn't control, that I would have been able to just shrug away because I was right. My emotional response was the correct one. My emotional response to say, well, I'll see him around. It doesn't really matter right now because we haven't even investigated to see whether it's still plugged into the wall. We haven't asked any of the people that were over there whether he said he was coming back. Nothing like that. So I was laying there, examining myself, being self-critical, and what had occurred to me is that if I were a little bit stoned, first of all, I would have just shoveled the food in my face, and then when she started her shit, I would have had food in my belly and I wouldn't have been annoyed. I probably would have also decided to not worry about everybody looking at me and not feel embarrassed about needing to take a dump. And so I probably would have just gone and taken the dump instead of just thinking, well, I can suffer through this too. Because there's a certain amount of, what I realize about myself is that my default mode is I can suffer through this. I can suffer through it. And then I do. And then I'm suffering about it. And so I think what I was saying the other day is, I don't think I said it maybe where anybody else heard it, but I've talked with my buddy and my oracle, Magic Shadow, about it, and there's a certain amount of, like, so many of the people who show up for breakfast at Christ's table, especially the people who show up really early and hang out, like me, I'm one of those people sometimes, more often than not, actually. Are all hammered. Those people that show up early, they're just hammered ass drunk. Some of them aren't even drunk. Some of them are on significantly harder shit than alcohol. And I would ask myself, most days, I would ask myself, or I would ask, Madge, good morning. Like, they can't wait until after breakfast? And the answer isn't even so much that they can't wait. The answer is that they didn't stop. They may not have. This might be like the ones who were sleeping on the tables. That's the first sleep they've gotten in this whatever 24-hour period for them. And so there was a certain amount of looking around and saying, well, you don't have the self-control, the self-discipline to go even a day, to go even an hour, to go even a breakfast sober. And it's like, well, it's not about self-control. It's about something entirely different for them. And so I just asked myself, like, well, do you have the self-control? And so I talked about this on I've spent the last a while now, trying to be sober, especially on Thursdays in the mornings, trying to be sober in the mornings, especially on Thursdays on my therapy day, because it's probably better for my mental health to speak to my therapist as myself, as a guy who's not hungover and as a guy who's not sober, or a guy who's not stoned. Because if I'm telling her I'm okay, and I'm stoned, and it's the being stoned that makes me convinced that I'm okay, then, oh, I'm actually not gonna miss this bus. And that means I'm gonna have to end talking to you on this. But if it's the weed that makes me okay, then I'm not really okay. Actually, she's not gonna be able to see me. Okay, here we go. If it's the weed that makes me okay, then I'm not really okay. So I've been spending some time trying to be sober and evaluate whether it's the weed that's making me okay or whether it's my mental fortitude that's making me okay. And I've decided it's my mental fortitude that's making me okay. And it's the weed. It's the weed that makes me actually want to be productive. It's the weed that makes me still want to work. It's the weed that makes me still want to talk. It's the weed that makes me still want to be artistic. And it's not it's a certain amount of unlocks that anxiety so that I'm not overthinking. I'm just being. So anyway, bus is here. Thank you for being here with me. For watching. Good morning.